All right, let's get into this thing.
Keep
All
it
right,
open.
screw it.
Close it out. We got Roto-World player news as we've had 2 big wide receiver trades this week. We'll get into all of those. And as always on Wednesdays, we got some early line alert for you. So let's jump in to keep it open or close it out. And we are going to start with Mr. Ride or Die, Kyler Murray. It's been a up and down road for Kyler Murray this season. But if you tune into his YouTube channel, Kyler addresses just tuning out the overall negativity. Take a listen.
Try not to look at too many messages and stuff like that. I try to, see the positive ones and reply to the positive people. Obviously, in this day and age, in this, the sport that we play, there's wins and there's losses. People, they have emotions. They're fans for a reason. Does it bother me? No. I'm not invested in what other people think about what transpired during the game. I know, my main focus is my main focus, and that's winning football games, and that's my teammates and my coaches. But man, I appreciate all the support. Obviously, it's going to be love and hate, but I understand that.
He mentions love and hate. Appreciate you reading, Kyler. Appreciate everyone reading, of course, obviously. Look, I get it. After Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, Jalen Hurts 2 years ago, Austin Eckler 3 years ago, Kareem Hunt's rookie year, Josh Jacobs' rookie year, the ride or die has, hit in a big. I basically have only missed 1 year.
You set the bar too high, which is a classic mistake.
I set the bar too high. I basically missed 1 year. There was 1 year there was an injury that happened in the preseason after I announced it, so you can't count that. But whatever. I did have Daniel Jones 1 year as a ride or die, and that did not work out. But for the most part, I'm like 6 to 7 overall on ride or dies. And this year with Kyler Murray, it's looking a little dicey. I get it. I hear you. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been tough, right? Under 15 fantasy points in 4 of 6 games. Cardinals are 26th in pass rate over expected, and they're 21st in overall pass rate. That's the weird part to me, is that the premise was right. Hey, this is a bad team that's going to be in negative game script quite a bit, and they're going to be throwing a bunch. So the negative game script was correct, Connor, but the throwing a bunch hasn't been. They've been very run heavy, which is super weird. And so he has not, while he's had some big games, overall, he hasn't been fantasy ride or die successful the way some of the other guys have, right? He's QB 12 on the season. Now, it hasn't been a complete disaster. Again, he's quarterback 12 on a points per game basis so far this year. And I think the other thing that I got wrong here, or I don't know that I've gotten wrong yet because I think there's still football to play. But the other thing that has surprised me is that they haven't run nearly as much as he's still averaging over 43 rushing yards per game, which is his most since 2020. But he's not getting a lot of rushing volume. It's just been very efficient. It's been these big chunk plays. It's not a big part of their offense when you watch these games. Last week they had a couple of bad fumbles that killed drives as well. There's been some tough matchups, but again, he hasn't been a disaster. He's been fine. He's been a borderline QB1. He went off as QB 8 or 10. He's QB 12 on the season so far. So he certainly hasn't killed you in terms of where you drafted him. He just hasn't been ride or die-esque the way I predicted at the beginning of the season. I am hanging with him though. And specific to this week, Connor, I am keeping it open. He is playing the Chargers, right? And both Justin Fields and Bo Nix scored at least 18 fantasy points against the Chargers. I'm hopeful they get Marvin Harrison back. His slow start and then leaving the game early last week, that contributed as well. And Trey McBride missed a couple games. He hasn't really had a lot of time out there with what we thought was going to be the full complement of pass catchers in McBride and Harrison and Michael Wilson and the human Dortch, Greg Dortch. James Conner hasn't been as great as well. I have to believe they will get this together. The upcoming schedule isn't great, but that's okay, again, because I think they will get him running more. I think that they have to, right? I mean, because it hasn't been working so far. So I have him as QB 10 this week. I'm keeping it open, and I'm leading the light on for him as my ride or die. I'm not bailing. That's what ride or die means. I'm not bailing. Should I have gone with Jaden Daniels? Yes, obviously. But
or Drake London.
Or Drake London. He was on the short list as well. By the way, we have the definitive Drake London interview coming up a little bit later in the show. Heads up, just for that. But yeah, I'm keeping it open this week, and I'm keeping it open for him as my ride or die. I still believe Connor Rodgers. I still believe it's early.
He hasn't been a disaster either.
No,
like you said,
he's
QB 12. He's 1 point away from being QB 8 on the season, and now we're reaching a point of the season here, Lawrence, where Sounds like Justin Fields is going to be benched, which is a little crazy. We'll get more into that later. The options at quarterback will slowly dwindle, and it just has to get better for Kyler if this offense gets healthy.
Mahomes has been bad. Josh Allen was good last week, but he was bad for the 2 weeks before that. I mean, other than Lamar, Anthony Richardson's been awful.
And Jaden Daniels, used by saying other than Lamar and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, no, Jaden Daniels is awesome, but Jaden Daniels been, and he was on the preseason love list, and I mentioned him as he was my runner-up for Ride or Die. Clearly should have gone that way, but at least as we look at through 6 weeks of the season. But I'm just saying in terms of like if you went with one of the quote-unquote earlier quarterbacks, because Jaden Daniels being drafted,
right.
Basically, Jaden Daniels being he was in the 10 to 14 range. Right. I mean, like he was definitely being drafted outside the top 10. Just whatever. I'm just saying if you went with one of the big, it's not like I wish I didn't draft Kyler Murray because I could have drafted Anthony Richardson or Patrick Mahomes. Like, you had that argument with Lamar Jackson, but Lamar, again, was going 3-4 rounds ahead of Kyler.
Yeah,
so I'm being a little defensive here because, but I am. I'm owning it. I'm owning it. But I'm owning it. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to hide from it.
Look, NBC don't let me get no ride or die, right? But Kyler Murray was a top 5 fantasy quarterback for me as well. And this is why I'll keep it open. Slightly, not as open as you, but like a green tea shot because it ain't that strong, right? Look, you mentioned Bo Nix, what he was able to do. He was quarterback 9 versus this Chargers defense. And the Chargers defense is a well-balanced defense. 8th in pass defense, 6th in rush defense. And 2, when you look at the Chargers defense, they missing some guys, a couple of DBs and Asante Samuel Jr., Jasir Taylor, and they're missing Joey Bosa. So anything like if you just combine that with what Kyler Murray can do, we saw him a couple weeks ago against the Niners, point in the air, 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, take it for 50 yards to the house. Like, we know he can still do that. So, and like you said, still a starting quarterback in fantasy. So we're not closing it out just for, a few, bad games.
I also like the fact that, by the way, that Kyler Murray's YouTube show, he's in a car, he's jogging, he's in the gym,
he's riding the
bike. It doesn't matter. It's just like whatever. Oh, hi, how are you? It's one of those.
I didn't see you there.
Oh, I didn't see you there. But while you're here, might as well.
Here's what's happening.
I might as well tell you I don't care what you think about my playing. That's
right. Anyway.
While we're at it.
Shout out QB1. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.